Okay, hello everyone. I'm Rachel McIntosh. I'm a podcast host and a journalist for Finance Magnates, and welcome to our discussion today. I'm so pleased to have here with me two thought leaders from the blockchain and AI space. I'll have Ben Goertzel, who's the Chief Executive of SingularityNET, and Stephan Nilsson, who's the Chief Executive of UNISOT. And I'll just ask them to briefly introduce themselves a little bit more now, starting with Ben.
I'm an artificial intelligence researcher for 30 plus years now. I have a PhD in math, and for a long time I've been applying AI to pretty much every area you could think of: finance, health tech and biology, robotics, some supply chain, and some AGI, artificial general intelligence, trying to make AI really be as smart as people. Since 2017, I've been running SingularityNET, which is a blockchain-based AI marketplace, and then using that as a platform for applying AI in all sorts of different areas, some of which we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Ben. And I said before the call, but I say it again, I love your hat. Stefan, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, yes. So Stephan Nilsson, I'm the founder and CEO of UNISOT, which is an enterprise blockchain platform. I'm also the founder of a company called Seafood Chain, where we're actually implementing this platform from UNISOT, so to help the seafood supply chain. So I'm based in Norway, and the second biggest export industry here is seafood, or maybe now with the oil price going low, maybe it's the biggest one. I haven't checked the latest prices, but so that's what I'm working with at the moment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you both so much for being here. So let's get right into it, and with talking a little bit about manual work and automation. So as we know, supply chain interruptions have been a big part of the global disruptions caused by COVID-19. So why at this present moment are supply chains so ineffective and so vulnerable to situations like the COVID crisis?
What we see when we are talking to customers is that even today, 2020, the digitalization level is very low, actually. A lot of companies are still using Excel or Google Docs to share documents, or even down to pen and paper to store temperatures and all the transport documents in trucks and boats and so on are still paper-based. And that may and a lot of that, because they are paper-based and manual-based, they get hit very hard if there is situations now like this where people are not allowed to go to work, or they're simply sick and cannot go to work. Then that stops up the processes. And what many people don't think about is that everything more or less is supply chain today. So everything you buy, your clothes, your phone, your computer, your food, not at least food, comes from a supply chain which has all of these manual steps. And and also with the today's way of working with just-in-time delivery and so on, we also see that company does not have any spare warehouses or spare supply. So when the supply stops for some reason, the whole operation has to stop because there is no extra to take from.
Right, exactly. So clearly there's a big problem. Yeah, Ben.
Oh, I was going to say you have multiple levels of problem here, and yeah, he's absolutely right. Like in terms of what we see in Hong Kong, I mean, when you order something from an English language website based in US, it's made in China, that website may be put online by someone in Hong Kong, but how does the stuff get there? Often someone in Hong Kong, every week or two, they make a trip physically across the border into China. They go to some city in remote China that they bring back. It could be a bunch of suitcases or a truck across the border into Hong Kong. They put stuff in boxes in a warehouse in Hong Kong. and they ship it out, right? So for one thing, that border hasn't been operating for a while. I mean, Hong Kong has limited warehouse space. You don't want to buffer stuff too long there. It's stored back in China and brought over as needed. And then in Hong Kong, while in some ways Hong Kong is super high tech, I mean, everything is paper is written down in Cantonese, right? And I mean, Hong Kong hasn't had stay-at-home orders, so I mean, people are going to the office in Hong Kong, but it's not business as usual. Not everyone is going in, and foreigners can't come in. Like if you think about like something like 20% of Africa's mobile phones came through one building, Chongqing Mansion in Hong Kong, and probably another 30 to 50% from Guangzhou in China. Well, now those guys with suitcases and mobile phones aren't going back and forth, let alone only recently going to the factory in Guangzhou where the mobile phones were made again, right? So yeah, you've got very basic, like lowbrow on the ground problems, like people can't get from A to B, or things are sitting in the warehouse because the guy who has to shop before him isn't in the office or something. Now, once you bypass those problems, then you would get to the higher end problems, right? Like once things were digitized and once borders are mostly open, then you have more interesting problems. Like, okay, when one thing isn't working, can an automated system figure out how to route around it? And often it probably could, because the supply chains are very, very, in electronics, for example, in South China, it's amazing how many suppliers there are and how many different ways there are to fulfill a certain need. So that, I mean, the raw capacity and diversity is certainly there for AI running on a blockchain to do amazing automated fulfillment and dynamically figure out the best route to get what is needed along multiple chains. But we're seeing a breakdown of sort of very basic lower level aspects of the process, which means we're not, in most domains, supply chain is not yet getting to the fun parts from an AI meets blockchain guy, which is like how do you use AI to more optimally, adaptively fulfill different supply chains based on changing circumstances.
Right, exactly. So then I'll ask Stephan first. What does a solution, AI blockchain-based solution for this kind of problem, which you and Ben just so beautifully laid out, what does that look like on a practical level?
So when we talk about blockchain, we talk about it's a distributed system that nobody owns. And if you look at the supply chain, that's the same thing. It's a number of companies loosely connected, and that's why we have a very good fit between blockchain and supply chain. And we have to get to a certain level of digitalization of the companies and the people in the supply chain just to get it going. But when we have that, and we see that the digitalization speed is getting quicker and quicker. More and more companies understand that they have to digitalize and get more automated. But as soon as we have more digital tools, like just to report things, to have transport documents, electronic forms and so on, and when we can put that in the blockchain, when we have that, then we can start implementing AI and machine learning on this to, as Ben said, to route around problems, but also to verify information for for example, IoT sensors and so on. So when you get values like temperature and weights and locations and so on, now we can use machine learning or AI to give that a value on how accurate it is. And it can also help us automate between companies And here also we get into the smart contract functionality of blockchain. So there is a lot of very, very interesting things that we can actually do with blockchain and AI together. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, when you envision a solution being built, would a blockchain and AI solution address any of the problems that have specifically been brought about, by COVID-19, or is this something that we sort of need to rethink on a broader level outside of just these moments of crisis?
Well, clearly, this is something we need to rethink on a broader level outside of crisis. But I would say that this situation, in a way, it's analogous to what you see with nursing homes or healthcare systems. Like if these systems were operating like they should be, or like many people would think they're operating, if they were well designed and efficient, modern, and digital now, then coping with the crisis wouldn't have been such an insanely bad problem as it has been.
Exactly.
I mean, if you had decent health practices within every nursing home, then yeah, you wouldn't have COVID spreading like crazy inside nursing homes. Like, on the other hand, probably a lot of other lives would be saved before the crisis that we just weren't paying attention to. If old people died there, you figure they were going to die anyway, right? So in the supply chain, similarly, I mean, things were patched together, so they pretty much worked. Shipping a package might have taken twice as long as it should have, and something might have cost a bit more than it should have, and there may have been some things broken, but in the end, things basically functioned. So we weren't worried about all the problems inside the system, and now the weakness of the system as a whole is being exposed, right? And so I think one optimistic hope would be that a crisis like this serves as a sort of wake-up call to modernize and upgrade various systems in a way that will promote general efficiency as well as make things more robust for the next crisis. I mean, whether that will happen, remains to be seen. It's sort of a historical and anthropological question, because I mean the thing with blockchain for supply chain, as he said, it's very, very obvious, right? I mean that the most obvious strength of a blockchain solution is when you have multiple counterparties to transactions who are not fully trusted, but they need to cooperate with each other. And you have that very exactly in a supply chain. I mean, you're passing stuff from one entity to another, and there's reasonable trust between the different parties in this supply chain, but they each have their own motives and their own records. There's not total trust, and it's also the case you don't have thousands of transactions every second, like in high frequency trading or something. So in a supply chain context, it's okay that transactions on blockchains today are not as fast as inside MasterCard or something. Like the performance requirements are not the same as in fintech applications, which is what's been a big focus of the blockchain world. So I think that current technology can basically do it, and it actually solves an extremely glaring present problem, which is records are kept inconsistently and messily, not updated properly, and there's not really a coherent record of what's going on through a whole supply chain in many cases. And
right.
Why isn't it rolled out? Well, because it's a really annoying rollout and sales and look at something like shipping, which I've done some work with. I mean, you've got people who come to get something, you've got people who manage it at a dock, people who load it onto a container ship, then people in many, many different places who may take it off and move it somewhere else, keep it somewhere else, and then bring it to wherever it's going. I mean, you're not even building something, you're just moving stuff. But even with just moving stuff, there can be a dozen or 20 different entities along that route at various levels of development as businesses. And you've got to get them all to buy in to some blockchain solution or some collection of interoperable blockchain solutions. So then when you add into it, look at our Sophia humanoid robot. Like we spent so much time just talking to motor companies about, okay, no one has the motor we want, so we have to source the gears inside the motor. And I mean, the number of different companies involved is significant, even if you're just moving things, let alone if you're building a robot or something. So it's one of these cases, like once everyone has adopted it, you know, everyone is operating much more efficiently in the normal course of business, as well as being much more resilient in the face of a crisis. But getting widespread adoption of something is an interesting challenge. And
it's definitely an interesting challenge. And Stephan, I want to ask you, you know, a little bit about how you've seen this implemented in practical ways. You know, it is as Ben said, you know, very eloquently, that this is going to be a difficult and very sort of annoying problem. How do we make this work on a practical level, you know, within the next even 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, right. We are actually working on it right now. I would like to address a couple of points that Ben pointed out here, that it's not as many transaction as financial industry. I'm not sure about that, because there is a lot of transactions. If a machine is producing 10,000 products per minute, like that, it's not as high as high frequency trading, but it's still like tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands transactions per second. So and you must use a blockchain that can actually handle that, and that is what is available today and what we are using. Many people think that blockchains are slow and so on, and many companies think that you need a private blockchain to have security, but that's simply not true. So what we need is one global public blockchain that everybody can use, and that has the scalability and capability of hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. And that's actually what we have now. And what we are working on, and other companies are working on as well, is to make it very, very easy for companies to start using blockchain. That companies shouldn't have to learn about blockchain. Just like all companies today are using internet for communication, even sensitive information to your bank and to your suppliers and customers and so on are going on the public internet, but everything is encrypted. We do the same with an open public blockchain, that we are communicating with the open public blockchain, but everything is encrypted and secure. And just like company today, they don't have to learn everything about TCP/IP protocol, HTTP, and so on to use internet. They just use it via a browser and a service provider. We are trying to do the same thing for blockchain here, that companies should just continue using their current ERP system, their current business processes, like creating an order or a bill of lading. They should just do that like they are doing it today, but in the back end, it should go through blockchain instead. And then you lower the threshold for company to start using this new technology. And you, at the same time, you make it much more secure, because when you're using blockchain encrypting things, everything is secure, traceable, and immutable. And that's the strength about an open public blockchain. Sure.
No, continue.
Yeah. So what we should do is to simply provide this functionality to companies to start using it. And thanks to this situation we have now, is that a lot of customer has gotten this wake up bell that, whoa, we have to be prepared. Everything was too loosely coupled here and too much manual work. So they are actually, the customers we are talking to is very interested in start looking into this and start actually using this blockchain technology for like in the food supply chain, where we have to keep track of temperatures and or origin of products and the traveling route of products and so on, and that they are healthy. And we also see a lot of more people now, also thanks to the situation, that more people are more interested in what's actually inside of their product. What are their ingredients?
Exactly.
Are there
Yeah,
gluten?
that is so
Are there
important.
lactose and so? Are there soya products and so on,
Hmm.
or all of these things? So
Yes.
we see
Stephan,
a
I'm
rise of interest.
terribly sorry. I'm
Mm.
terribly sorry to cut you off. Unfortunately, Ben and Stephan, we are out of time. I think we could go on all day. I'm so interested in this topic. I want to thank you both so much for your time, and also thank you, our audience, for spending this time with us. I wish you all the best. There's a lot happening in the world right now. Stay safe and stay well.